This
will,
conference will now be recorded.
all these business analysts will collect the information from business owners, and then understand, give it to the, create a plan like a business requirement document, functional requirement document, system requirement specification. Then looking at those things, testers will do test plan. Okay, writing the test scenarios. Okay, then writing test cases, reviews, environment setup, build development. So these are the process that we go through software testing life cycle. As a tester, we need to know the process also, how it actually goes in real time. So these are the process that we go through. So in depth we will be going into each and everything with live examples. Then what is manual testing? So we have to know, like, before entering into automation, this is the first step of testing. And why should we do, what is the advantage, and all we need to know about manual testing. So we'll also see how they perform. Looking at the document, they have to read document. What kind of document they have to read? They have to read business requirement document, okay, system requirement document, then functional requirement document. So we'll also see about which all document they're supposed to read and what are they going to do. First, they'll observe the document, then analyze the requirement, then they will develop the test cases. So test case development is a main activity of a manual tester. And then comes execution. Then if they find any bug, they have to fix it, or they have to send it to a developer, raise an issue, developer will fix it, and then give it back to testers. Next, why is testing necessary? So we have to know why is manual testing necessary, why is automation necessary. Until unless we don't know what is the necessity of it, we'll not get to know why we have to do this. So we'll also look into the necessity of it, what is the advantage. For example, the main advantage of being automation is reusability. The code can be reused n number of times. Okay, that is what we have to look into. Then product versus project. So if the software application is developed for a specified customer requirement, then it is called project. If the any time no software is developed for a specified customer, so we are looking at an application. For example, take Amazon.com. So that was developed for a owner's requirement. It was not our end users requirement. We never told we want Amazon to be like this, but it was a single person's or a owner's requirement. So that's called a project. But when it comes to these laptops, it is for a multiple customer requirement. For example, Dell has its own company, and they are preparing it for multiple customer requirement. It is not concentrating on one single customer. So if you're concentrating on multiple customers, then it's called a product. Then these are the document which I'm mentioning. So they are called BRD, business requirement documents, FSD, functional specification document, SRS is software requirement specifications. So they are also called as BRS, business requirement specification, FRS, functional requirement specification, and SRS, system or software requirement specification. We can call either it ways, like few company call it in this way, or either of it. So then coming to business requirement documents, then functional specification documents, then software requirement or system requirement documents. So what does business requirements is? Why are we going to develop this product or a project? How is it going to function? And then what is it going to give the purpose? So this is about it. Then comparison between manual and automation testing. Manual testing is requires human intervention for a test execution. So we have to compare why manual and why automation. What is the main difference? We have seen a minute difference now, because automation is reusable. Ultimately, manual is not reusable. Manual is a time consuming. Automation consumes very less number of time. So like this, we need to have a depth knowledge about the comparison. Then looking into black box, white box, and gray box testing. We have few types of testing. So we need to mention, right, we have to identify some characteristics between them, we have to differentiate them. So black box, white box, and gray box. Coming to test plan, as I told you, looking into functional requirement specification, we'll prepare a document called test plan. So we'll also see some sample test plans that we have got online. And what are the activities to determine the scope and risk that we need to be tested, that are not to be tested. So then they will also look into documenting the test strategies. These are the activities during creating the test plan, what some activities that will be involved. So we are mentioning these are the activities. Then coming to software testing life cycle. So as a tester, okay, this is the complete knowledge that a tester will have. Especially this table will be from a manager or a team leader who is planned completely about software testing, from planning till the closure. So what all they are going to do, who are all will be involved. So they will have every details in it. So this is the chart of it. Then what is test case? From here it's very important, like test case is the main purpose of a manual tester that they are going to create. So then coming to what all you need to create a test case. To create a test case we need test case id, test case scenario, test case description, steps, prerequisites, test data, expected result, parameters, actual result, environment information, and comments. Like this, we need some columns. Under that column, we are going to fill. So we'll see one pictorically. For example, Google is a project name. Okay, then module name. So login is one module, logout is one module, cart is one module, product is one module. Okay, like that. Then name it in a different way. So this is a login module. Then if you have referred any document, we can mention. Created by, who would have created these test cases? Their name has to be mentioned. Then date of creation and date of review. Date of creation is when are you going to create this document. Review will be done by a team leader or a manager. So whenever they are reviewing the test cases, they will mention their details. And then coming to, these are the mandatory columns, guys. Most of the company follow very similar one. Here and there, one or two columns they might add as per requirement. Otherwise this is the format. Okay, test case id. So how it should start? It has a naming convention called test case underscore login underscore 001. TC means test case underscore whichever module you are working. If you are working on login, put it as login. If you are working on logout, put it as logout. If you are working on home page, put it as home page, like that. So depending on the module, you are going to add that. And then 001, 002, because it's a single module, they have taken it as 001 only. Then scenario. So we'll also see what is scenario later and the next upcoming slides. And then test cases, precondition, test steps and data to be required. Okay, expected result, actual result, and then you'll also see status, pass or fail. So these are the minimum criteria that has to be fulfilled to create a test case. If these data are there only, you can start creating a test case, guys. Okay, then we'll also see test scenario versus test case, use case versus test case, then some example, real-time example, okay, for our understanding about use case, test case, and test scenario. Then positive, negative scenario. What is positive, what is negative scenario? For example, there is a scenario where you have to enter 6 digit in a box, but you are able to enter 8 digit. That is a bug. But when you want to do a positive scenario, it is like 0 to 6 digit, you can enter. Okay, but exceeding that, or they have asked you to enter only alphabetics, you are trying to enter numbers also, numbers, that is not expected, so that value will be negative scenario. When you are trying to do out of box, okay, that's a negative scenario. Next, test suite. Okay, test suite is a container that has a set of tests which help testers in executing the report. So we'll also see what is test suite, how it looks like. Okay, test suite is like, see, you have a test plan. Inside the test plan, one second, so we'll also see what is test suite. Okay, then we'll see test plan, test case, and all. So how it starts? So test plan will have n number of test suites, so test suites will have n number of test cases. Okay, this is how it actually works. And then coming to test data. What is test data? Test data is a data, okay, that is used to during your test execution, that is called test data. So we'll see, for example, if you are using username, password, those are all data that you are using during testing. It is not your personal data that you will use, you will use the data that is created for the testing purpose only. Then we have test environment setup, principles of testing. Oh, we'll compare error, bug, and failure. We would have heard about these words, but we need to have a deep cut, correct knowledge about it. So we'll see what is error, defect, or bug. Those two actually are synonyms, so it should not get confused. So we'll also look into what is it, how to raise a defect, what is a bug life cycle. Okay, a report of that, classification of severity and priority. How does severity identified, how is priority identified, some of the examples that I can give about it. then low severity, high priority examples. These are all real-time examples. So this is a technique. Basically, severity and priority would be a technique where you need to follow, okay, in real time. So you might have to get that. Then low priority to low severity, low priority, high severity. Okay, this is also required. So if a spelling mistake, then it comes under low priority and low severity. If there is an application issue, then it is high. Okay. Then coming to exercise. Here are recommended answers, okay, that we can think of. I will be giving you assignment so that you have to work. Then we'll see what is defect triage and triage process. What is defect triage? In your team, you have a very less number of people, okay. Then you need to find so many bugs and then you have to fix it. At that time, we have to follow some process that's called defect triage. So we'll also see that. Then coming to decision table, okay, then it is no, you also have an example for all those decision tables. And then we'll see state transition technique. These are the technique, guys. Decision table, state transition are also technique that you need to follow. So we have few example for it. Then coming error guessing. If somebody who is having a lot of experience in same domain, they can look at some issues and then they can immediately have a guess on error. So that's called error guessing. Ad hoc, monkey, and exploratory testing. These are the type of informal testing. So we'll see how it is when we will use those testings. Then ad hoc and monkey testing comparison, software development life cycle. So coming to these modules, these are all under development life cycle. But we need to know what is this module. If only we have got some opportunity to understand that we have to implement some model, we can think about it. So for the knowledge purpose, we'll have to know about waterfall, prototype, spiral, V&V model. So we'll see waterfall model, then we'll see prototype, spiral model, okay, VV model, then we'll also see agile methodology. Okay, these are the advantages and disadvantages of agile. Agile is a methodology that most of the companies are using now. That is very quick and very fast methodology that we are working on. So regular basis they will have a build and release. So that's called agile. Then testing technique, we have a technique that we can work on, okay, testing technique. So this is a overall, testing technique that we come across. So as I told you, you have equivalent partition, decision table, okay, state transition technique. All these are a technique. We'll also see about experience based, error guessing, exploratory, each and everything we'll understand, okay, what is it about. Then static and dynamic testing difference. So we have seen here static and dynamic is a main two types of testing techniques. So we'll see what is it, what all comes under that. And then coming to debugging. Debugging is a process to fix the bug that we have found. The process when we find some bug, we are fixing it, right? That process is called debugging. So we'll see about it, some other techniques. Then coming to functional and non-functional testing. And we'll also see, testing terminologies, sanity. There are other varieties of testing. So we'll also see what are those and what is the meaning of it. Sanity, smoke testing, security testing, recovery, sanitation testing, compatibility, installation testing, stress testing, volume testing, installation and uninstallation. So these are the types of functional and non-functional testing. So we have understood about that, techniques and types and methodologies of testing. So this covers the manual testing syllabus. So this is how we compare, like you get to understand a lot of things about manual testing. So we'll also see some things about automation now. So anything to ask, guys? Anybody has anything? Now coming to automation, we have some testing types like introduction. Who introduced Python into the market, and who was the person, backbone behind that. Okay, we have to see that. And then steps for automation testing phases, and then syntax and comments, variables. So what is a variable, how is it stored? Okay, so to call something we have to use a variable. It's like a container in a glass. If you add a milk, so it stores a glass shape. If you add in a bowl, it stores a the bowl shape. Like that, variables are like a containers. It is just like a container that will store data in it. So it can be any type of data. We'll talk about those things. What are literals in Python? Then what are the numerical operators that we come across Python? Then data types. Okay, Then we also see cheat sheet about how we have to know about string, list, tuple, set, and dictionary, the difference between all these data types. Then string functions will come across string functions. And then lists are used to store multiple items, so this is also one more data type. Okay, primitive and non-primitive data types are there, so these are all non-primitive data types. Then we'll see functions of what all you can perform using list. And then coming to tuples. Okay, then set functions, what all will be performing using set. And then dictionaries. Okay, nested and conditional statements. Typecasting, so we have to convert integer to float, float to integer. Some scenario might arise, so conversion of these things, so at that time we call it as int, float, and string. Python has primitive loop commands, for loop and while loop. Okay, these are the very important concept. Basically, Python is an object based language, object oriented language. That's the reason we need to have a strong knowledge on oops concept. For loop, while loop. Okay, these are from here, it's a oops concept. Then we have arrays. What is array and how do you store data in array? Then functions with arguments. So we have some keyword arguments and other args that we are arbitrary arguments. So we'll see how you can store data in it and what is the importance of it. Are we using a function or a class to perform it? Then we are also seeing what are functions in Python. Functions is one of the important again topic to cover. So function is a block of code which only runs when it is called. You can create a function, but if you until unless you create an object, you cannot call a function. So we'll see about that as well. And then global and local variable. Okay, global variables are variable that are declared outside the function and you can use anywhere in the project, whereas local variables are those variables that are declared inside the function. Okay, so that we'll see difference between local and global variable in detail. Then what is the class and object in the Python? So you should understand the difference between class and objects. Okay, then you also have to understand about constructor, default and parameterized constructors. Okay, we'll see about it. Then default and parameterized constructor. Coming to errors, so everywhere you will find an error, but how will you identify the error? So what are you going to do? What are the technique that you can use to identify the error and to complete? So we'll see into that. Then runtime error. We have three types: runtime, logical, syntax error. So how do we handle these errors? Okay, errors are common, but we have to handle it. So how are we going to handle this? Then coming to exception handling. Error is different, exception is different. See, these are the abnormalities, but we have to handle these things. So how do we handle is also one concept that we have to cover. Then coming to built-in exceptions. Okay, some of the built-in exceptions means the Python already stores these exceptions, so we are also talking about these exceptions. Okay, then coming to inheritance. So inheritance is the one more concept. For example, our parents or grandparents has some properties made, so we can also inherit those properties, like whatever they have properties will inherit it. Coming to characteristics and features of our parents, we will inherit, so that is also part of inheritance. Then coming to generators, so we'll also see what kind of generators and iterators are there. Then generators are basically like a normal function, but we are adding some keywords to perform. Yield keyword, like that, some of the keyword that we are using. Yield is the one of the most used a keyword in generators. Then coming to keywords in Python. Difference between method overloading and overriding. So access specifiers. So public, private, and protected are the access specifiers. So we'll see how to differentiate this access specifiers. Okay, then encapsulation. So this describes covering a class. In single class you are covering method and variable, that is called encapsulation. Okay, then it describes the idea of wrapping data, the method that works on within. So we have private, public, and protected, so we'll look into it deeply. And then we'll also cover decorators. Okay, at property, at class method, at static method. So how do we use this and what it helps for? And then file handling. For example, you want to create a text file in the Python, so how do you create, how do you read, how do you write, that we'll see. Then we'll also see Excel handling. We need to import some local libraries, so we'll also import using this pip install packages. So how do you read Excel, how do you write Excel, we'll also see that. Okay, this is now covers the part of Python. Then coming to Selenium, so whenever you want to access the browsers, correct, so you have to have some no middlemen like WebDriver and Selenium to work on it. So we have to check that as well. So we'll be looking into it. See, these are the browsers that we will have to work on. So any of the browsers you might come into a scenario that you have to work on. So Chrome, Mozilla, Firefox, IE, okay, Edge, Safari. Most of the companies uses Chrome browser now. Okay, so IE is an old one. Firefox is also going down. So Chrome has updated features. So everybody is using Chrome. So to use this, we have to connect with a PyCharm. So how do we connect it? By having a middleman. What is a middleman here? The driver, web driver. Okay. So that web driver has different for different browsers. For example, if you take Chrome, Chrome has a Chrome driver manager. If you take a Gecko driver, is a Firefox. If you take a IE browser, then it is for IE. If you take Edge browser, then you need Edge driver. So driver is a middleman, okay, between the browser and the Selenium, the Python and the browser. So then comes to Safari. Safari driver. Safari is for Mac, guys. Only one software that is for Mac. All these are support for Windows and Linux. All these. Other than Mac, everything else will cover. Safari only supports Mac. Then these are the request libraries, how it actually backend works. Whenever we click Google, you search for some jobs in Hyderabad, what happens, it will go behind and it will check what are available. So that process is called API, so application program interface. So they'll also have a discussion on APIs. Okay, we'll not go deeper, but we just have to understand it. Then coming to WebDriver, as I told you, WebDriver is a middleman between these. So WebDriver is going to component, WebDriver is going to understand how the Python works, what is the requirement of the browsers, and in between it will connect those things. Okay, so it is going to connect those. The WebDriver is one of the computers in component in Selenium. So Selenium itself has a one component that is called WebDriver. Then Selenium is free and open source, so it is not paid source, guys, so everybody can use Selenium. Okay, so scripting of Selenium, and also it supports almost all the languages in the market. Okay, so that is also one reason that we have to understand. Then coming to links, so if I want to download all those drivers, I want you to explain, like I want you to download means these are the links that you need to check for those, so that is also given. Then coming to interaction, so I told you WebDriver is the interaction, that is also called as JSON wire protocol. So Selenium, here you see the first image says you the building of languages. You can take any language because Selenium supports almost all the languages. So coming to Selenium, then it will go to JSON wire protocol and it will connect to the drivers that I've told you to download. So those drivers will connect to the real browsers. This is the process. Okay, then coming to locators, type of locators. So we have, to work on Selenium, we need to access some locators, right? You cannot just go directly and click on anything in the Google. So for example, I'll show you. Google.com. So what happens if you want to search Selenium jobs in India? Okay, so when you're clicking on this, so to click this also you need to use automation, right? You need to write a code to send keys here, and then these are all back and see where then the web link changes. This is called API testing, comes under API. So what happens, we need to test that. So if you do right click, how do you see all these locators is, for example, do right click, inspect button, take this inspect button and see this. See, this is the code written for that specific line. Okay, see class is also, see here you can see class name. Class is a one more locating strategy. Then you can see ID, name. Okay, name is equal to q. So here you can see name. So these are the locating strategies that you come across. Using these locating strategy, you have to communicate between these locating strategies which is written by a developer. These are the code that is written by a developer, guys, to design a application. So once it is started through HTML, this means this is written in HTML. So this is the browser, you have to inspect the element, then you have to use this. So like this, you can use it for all the applications. Okay, then we'll also see how locating strategies are. Like you have single and multiple. If there is a drop down, you have 10 or hundreds of drop down. For that specific also, you have this locating strategies. Single and multiple, both are there. Then coming to multiple elements, when you have multiple elements like drop down, selections and all, you need multiple elements. So we have contains, use, and are, xpath functions. Okay, these are the xpath methods that we use. And then we see the dom element. As I told you, I showed you relative and absolute xpath is there. So these are all called dom element. Whatever is present here is called dom element. One of the example is, for example, I want to write a code in this line. For that, I will take name. Here you can see the name. So how do you create an XPath? There is a format / tag name. What is a tag name here? Input. Input less than symbol and then input is there. That is a tag name. Input. Okay. Open bracket @ and I am taking ID name is equal to Q and then close bracket. See, it is identifying. Getting it? Like this, you have n number of code that is written. We are using that is already written to identify our locating strategy and to work on it. Getting it? Like this, we will work on. These are all called dom elements. So what is absolute? So this xpath, whatever I created now, is called an xpath. Okay, so when you start from absolute and html, when you start from html, from here to whichever line we want till here, if you are coming from here html, I haven't come there, I've directly taken this line. Okay, that is called a relative xpath, whereas absolute xpath starts from the beginning of the dom element, from the html. See, this is the difference. HTML body tag name, it will come. So that is the difference between absolute and relative xpath. So this is the live example. So whatever I created now is called a relative xpath, and whatever is above here is absolute, which is starting from HTML. It is starting from the body of it. These are all called DOM elements. Okay. Now, for example, sometimes browser is very fast, PyCharm is very slow. You have to balance those two. So to balance those two, what we will use? We will use weights. Those are called implicit and explicit weight. So these weights help you to connect between the Selenium and tell them please wait for 10 more seconds till the object or element is present. So until unless don't click or don't fail. So if you want to communicate like that, we need to use this concept called wait, and then it will communicate with that, and it will wait until the element is present. Otherwise the test case will fail. That is the reason. So then implicit, explicit, time dot sleep, three methods are there in Python. Time dot sleep is inbuilt one, that's a separate. Implicit and explicit comes for a Selenium. Okay, then coming to relationship of nodes. What is this relationship of nodes? As I showed you in the XPath method, we have preceding, parent, ancestors. So these are the relationship nodes of a next path. Okay, this will get to know when we are advancing our XPath creations. Then coming to XPath, same in the XPath however we have created, so I'm just showing that part of it. Then we'll also see get text. So there are some situation where whatever you have entered here, you need to get that and you need to print. So in that situation, we'll use get text. Then get attribute. So attribute is a different concept where you have this attribute value here. Okay, when you have a drop down, you'll get that value. So during that drop down, okay, so we'll have an attribute and value. So we'll see if you have, see like this. For especially this attribute value will be there for drop down and such scenarios. We'll also see current URL. This is a URL. Okay, we'll see what is the current URL. Page source. So page will have a source on it. Okay, you can see sources here. So page source are these codes that is written here. So we can also print that. Cookies. So we know if you are keep on opening n number of tabs, we have to manage cookies, right? The storage capacity will reduce if the cookies are high. So we can also work on that. Then get attribute, get title. What is a title here? So Selenium jobs in India is a title here, guys. If you come here, it will show. Go to meeting. This is the title, guys. So if you want to know, find the title global.gotomeet.com. So this is the title. So we can also print the title and we can also work on it. Then coming to class and table data value, these are the elements that we can work on. Okay, that is keys. Then coming to commands and conditions of the browsers, backward, forward, refresh. So you have seen three buttons here, backward, forward and refresh. So these three buttons, how to handle using automation. Okay, that we'll see. Then quit versus close. So if you want to close a browser, it is different. If you want to close a window, that is a different. See, this is the closure of window, but if you want to close a browser, it's a different. See, complete closure of the browser. That is called closure of window and browser we need to see. Then handling the backward, forward, refresh, as I told you, cookies, delete, and then current URL. Then coming to alerts, there are some websites where you have an alert. We'll see make my trip, okay? Makemytrip.com. So here you will have an alert. It will take time, okay? Pop-up alerts and all will come. Okay, see this. This is a pop-up that is coming. We are now available in Hindi. Close this. So these are the pop-ups handling. So we can also handle those things. Accept, dismiss. Okay. When text sending alerts, we'll see. Then window handling. As I told you, this is a separate window. So handling of these windows, switching a window, all this will be handling using window. Then coming to frame handling. What is a frame? Frame, few website has a table and frame. So in this, I will see if there is a frame. Right click, inspect. So how do you check a frame? We can check iframe. So if you have a frame, it will tell you where exactly is a frame. So based on this code, we can understand that there is a frame or not to a full page. No, for full page, it is not the specific frame is there. So you'll also see how to work a frame. Then we'll see action class. Action class is one of the important code that we need to work on. So here mouse over, double click, right click, whatever keyboard actions you will do, same thing using action chain you can work on Python Selenium. So you don't need to do it through keyboard or mouse. See, mouse double click will happen through mouse. So that keyboard action is also, or mouse action is not required. We are going to do it in the command itself. Then coming to drop down and radio button. In drop down you would have seen to select. Okay, some websites have that. I will just show you. This is called drop down, guys. Okay, the arrow mark that you are seeing downwards. This is called radio button. Click on this is called a radio button. So we'll also see value drop down radio button. How to handle that? Okay, then assert equal to. For example, this is the error we are getting, or we'll compare. Um, Okay, we'll compare this Bengaluru, okay, Bengaluru or Delhi. From here we have taken this text and then we'll compare whether what we have written is true or not. Assertion, okay. So we'll also see that equal to, not equal to, whatever we have entered is equal to or not. So asserting and verifying all those things. Then come fixtures, okay. Fixtures are again attached to a same function. You already have an existing function. You're just trying to modify those function. Okay, that is called fixtures. Then we have some commands that we'll work on. Then coming to framework. Framework is mainly for the organizing the code that you have already learned. You have separately learned Python, you have learned Selenium. So you want to club it together, okay, and then you have to work on a framework. That is called framework. That is a PyTest. Okay. Then they have some versions. These are the commands that we come across. PyTest, fixtures, version, help, and then run. PyTest, it will run completely. These are the commands. PyTest underscore my underscore v minus s, PyTest v minus h minus html. If you want to generate a report, then you have to give the last command. Then we have to see the version of it, then give version. Fixtures like this. Okay. If you want to install py install PyTest, that is a command. In the command prompter, you have to give that command. Or terminal if it is a Mac. Then coming to framework. Framework is a design pattern, guys. We are using page object model as a design pattern. Okay. So organized way of to maintain the files. So we have so many files. So we have to maintain it in an organized way. Then we call it as a framework. We use that in a framework. So folder structure of the framework. So these are the structures. Usually if you see in real time your project is created in this way. So configuration, logs, page objects, reports, screenshots. Okay. This is the organized way of coding. So whatever you have written all these days in Python, Selenium, whatever learned, you will club it together and create a framework to be, reusability. Small changes you do, you can switch to any other website that you can work on. So you can reuse the code. One person creates the code, all others can use the same code in the group. Okay, that is how this framework folder structure will be. Then we'll also see the rule of PyTest. Okay, how does this PyTest work and fixtures? So PyTest, as I told you, the command is there. So how do you create the module for it? So rule of it. So a PyTest should always start from test underscore demo. For example, this T should be capital, a small letter only. Then only it will start the identifying the test cases. Then, as I told you, it's a design pattern. PyTest is a framework, but design pattern name is page object model. So since the everything is in a different page, these are all called pages. So that's why it's called page object models. Okay, we have a data driven, so we also can work on data driven. So there are two types of data driven. One is data driven testing, one is data driven framework. So based on the requirement, we can change the analysis on data driven file result compatibility on that. Then we'll also see Git. What is Git? So we have so many codes written by team members. So what do we do? How do we store it? If you store in our own laptop, if something crashes, your system crashes, it's all gone. You cannot write the code like again, right? It will take lot of time. So to avoid all those small accidental mistakes, what we will do? We will store the code in a repository called Git. So this is also open source. Okay, you have paid as well. So this is the club code repository. So most of the company use GitHub, and then there are so many others in the market: GitLab, CNV, CSV. Okay, we also have SVN. So like this, so many repositories are there. So we have to store those in repositories so that we'll have an access at any point of time. All the team members can access. How do we access? So a repository is like a server. Without internet, it will not work. Okay, so it is like a server where you can send your commitments. You are committing it to the repository. If you want to take the code, then you call it as update. So like this, you can keep on updating every week, every 2 days or something. So what happens, whoever written the code will push it to the repository. So pushing is called commit, pulling is called update. So this process also takes place during GitHub and GitHub process, means code repository. So these are the commands that we come across in Git. Git init, git clone, git add, git commit, git diff, git status, git rm, git log, git push, pull, branch, merge, checkout, remote. Like this, we have so many commands. So we'll also see, you don't need to remember. When we start working, automatically you'll learn it. Then clone add. So what do you mean by clone? Clone actually is a hosted, okay, somewhere like a GitHub in the folder on your local mechanism. So it will store all those into cloning. Then coming to add, you have to track your file, then you have to add it to first time only. When you add the file, then it is called add. Every time you push it, called commit. Okay, that is the difference between add and commit. Then we have push, pull, checkout. As I told you, push means you are uploading the file, pull means you are downloading whatever you have changed. Then checkout, remote, init. Okay, so the init is initialization, remote is to connect with your local repository. So these are the commands that we understand. So this is about automation, guys. We'll be covering Python with Selenium, also covering all the repositories, the code that you can store inside it. So this is how the Python actually works. So any doubt, any clarifications?
Python with Selenium and Python with Selenium, Java with Selenium. Both are same.
Python with?
Hello, sorry.
Yeah, tell me.
Python with Selenium, Java with Selenium. Both are the same scenarios.
Scenarios are same. Like you can do web testing only. Both are supporting web application testing only. Both are
Which is okay? Which is the easiest one? Python is the easiest one, or Selenium? Java is the easiest one.
Python is the easiest.
I want to know
one.
that. Okay. Okay, ma'am. And another one thing, within how many classes this it will be completed, this one?
It will take around 20 to 28 classes, 28 hours.
Okay. Because before I was in other scenario, just I will review your class and I will make it confirm. It's okay for me.
Okay, fine.
Today, how many people attend, ma'am? Total?
No idea. I'm able to see few of them here, but that shows
Okay.
DR, TBIS, TB. Other than you, I think there's other only one. I'm not sure who else attended.
Maybe 3 people. I think so. Okay.
I think that's it, right? I mean, nothing else, right?
Ma'am, this related to testing. These
Yeah.
concepts related to Python. It's okay. We can early we can learn this one.
Yes. This is the
Easy
fastest and
concepts, sir.
when you come to
Easy
Java,
concepts.
very much easy.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
So yeah, Java, if you want to write number of code lines, no, it will take pretty long. For example, if you want to launch a browser, it will take 10 lines. In Python, it is only 3 lines. So you have lot number of coding difference. Okay, advantage is there in both the languages. It has its own advantage. This has its own advantage. Okay, so my Python is booming because later, if you are interested into artificial intelligence, machine learning, you can, when you learn Python, you can advance yourself. But with Java, it is not yet come into the market. Java is not supporting artificial intelligence and machine learning. Python actually is supporting it. So if you compare like that, every language has its own advantage and disadvantage. So this is helping to write number of lines. Coding is very less, and you will also learn faster. That's the market for it now.
That means as per latest versions, this is okay.
Yes.
In future.
Yes. Upgrowing one. This is for a market now, booming market.
Okay, ma'am.
So I think one more person is there, another two no response. Anyways, that's it, guys. Somebody with name TB, I can't see their name. Anyways, no other doubts, right? Thank you guys. Please give the feedback and then we'll join. Thank you.